Okay, gun control. I've been trying to make a video about this for quite some time, and it's not easy, and I've been thinking a lot about it, how to express my view and opinions of it. And it's a complicated situation. It's not just who has guns, who owns guns, or how easy it is to get guns. There's a lot more involved with it, with gun control. You have a lot of psychology, okay? You have a national identity of people in the United States. You have political factors about control and power. And you also have the issue of people's responsibility and accountability for their actions, be it with firearms or driving a motor vehicle or going out and having a drink in a bar. That's another whole issue there, is people's accountability. Also, how people in our society look at themselves, treat other people, and deal with other people. Okay, there's other factors involved in this, so it's not that much of a cut and dried issue. Let's look at the two extremes. On one side you have, or the whole cause of this and the reason about gun control is gun violence, mass shootings, and the fact that a lot of people believe the free availability of firearms and ammunition creates this problem. That's not quite true. So let's look at the two. When you talk about gun control, you have two extremes. You have people on one side that believe, people don't really need guns in quantity, maybe a couple shotguns to hunt with, like in England, but no handguns, no assault rifles, no nothing, because people are not responsible, there's evil people, and we should just control it or confiscate all the guns. Going to one extreme. On the other extreme, you get this, well, I'm an American, it's my God-given right to own a firearm, and if you get in my way, I'll kill your ass or whatever, that kind of attitude. Alright, there's your two extremes. The thing is, which one's right, which one's wrong? Well, neither are right or wrong. Okay, it's a very, to encompass the whole scope of it. The reason is, my basic reason of being against gun control is, politically behind the scenes, when you have the ability to control the guns. Now if you look at gun control globally, there's only one country, I looked it up, one country that totally outlaws all ownership of firearms. I forget the name of it. It's some small island country, I think out somewhere in the Indian Ocean, somewhere around Madagascar or something. One of these Asian Pacific countries, if you have a loaded cartridge, they find you with one round of live ammo, it's 10 years in prison. And that is only one state that has total no ownership of firearms. A vast majority of countries do not state that private ownership of firearms is illegal. They just regulate it to the point where hardly anyone privately owns a firearm of any type. And basically that's what it is, and it goes from real extreme like that to somewhere like, England. I think you can still own shotguns. They got rid of all the assault rifles years ago. They banned all of them. And they recently passed where private ownership of a handgun is no longer allowed. But you can still own a double-barrel shotgun and hunt. So you kind of get into an area like that. There's some countries that you cannot own a firearm that is a military caliber, such as a 9mm or a rifle of a military caliber. But some other caliber you can. They have all kinds of things. And it's been a global effort to confiscate the firearms and ban get more guns away from private ownerships. Australia and Brazil are two that do it, and you see the pictures where they have all the guns and they're destroying them. What this does, and on Facebook I've posted some references to Adolf Hitler in Germany and gun control. And it's kind of true. If you start controlling who owns the firearms, you're centralizing your government's power. Criminals and people who are outside the law, no matter what they do, will always have access to illegal anything, drugs, weapons. You're not going to stop that, okay? So any law you pass, you got people that are already breaking the law, so you can pass as many laws as you want, it ain't going to stop them. Gun violence. Okay, this is where you start getting into people, the responsibility and self-control. If you don't have the self-control or self-discipline where a domestic argument or something escalates, or an argument with your neighbors to where it becomes deadly and a firearm or baseball bat or anything is used, this is where your mental health and this mental state of people come in. And accountability. Okay? Flying off the handle and killing somebody over a traffic incident, or your neighbor's dog taking a crap on your yard, okay, it's kind of ridiculous, but it does happen. It happens. And so the big question is, how do you regulate guns to where it doesn't get in the hands of people that really are not acting responsible enough to possess a firearm, because they become, the question is, they become a threat to the public or a danger to people. That's almost an impossible thing to enforce. You would have to take a psychological profile of every individual in this country, and then what guidelines do you go by? Who decides who's mentally fit or not? And how would you decide that? So, a lot of the things there, you got problems that are tied in to also not only people's mental health, but the social, economic, and political situation always is a strong factor. There's a lot of psychology in firearms also. For example, if you see medieval knights, they're buried holding their sword, on their chest when they're put to rest. Weapons by the military and by the police, it has a psychological impact. Most people say if you see a bunch of soldiers with rifles and tanks around a military base, wouldn't get nervous. Neither would they get nervous when a police officer shows up and he's wearing a handgun. Okay, it's their job. It's normally accepted that these people do function as their job in society armed. Now, some people have an aversion to firearms, a fear. They don't like being around them. And you can understand they don't trust people. Now you gotta say, is this person responsible enough to carry a loaded firearm around for whatever reason, and have the sound judgment to use it when necessary? And that's where people don't trust one another, and that kind of adds to the people who want more gun control this train of thought, which they're right. There are a lot of people, you see it just driving to work, that don't make sound judgments operating a motor vehicle. Do you want these people wandering around with a loaded gun? Okay, that's your thing, but that's a tough question, and there's no way around that. A lot of other gun violence, people who are involved in illegal activities, say in the drug trade or whatever, or just criminals who rob people, use guns, okay, and maybe they get them from a source where they don't have a background check, or most of them are stolen. I mean, it's part of their criminal activities, to steal things and steal guns. There are a lot of stolen guns. So this is where people get the idea, if we just gather up and get all the guns off the street or out of people's hands, then criminals couldn't steal the guns to use them. But and I see where they're coming from on that. It's an idea, but it's not when it works. Then you have already you got the psychological impact and a national identity. The Second Amendment, and all Americans are supposed to be hunters and people who own firearms, and the citizen soldier genre of the past when we formed this country is part of our national identity. So a lot of people, that rubs them the wrong way when you talk about confiscating or banning guns. And plus, if you go out into more rural areas, especially around here where I live, a lot of these people live in a country and hunting is a normal part of life. Owning guns is a normal part of life. They do it from when they're small children. Everybody in the family hunts. It's a popular sport. It's also a good thing for conservation and that. So when you start talking about confiscating guns or limiting guns, these people don't like the whole thought of that. And then another thing is, there is, like I said, there's a global movement to ban private ownership of firearms. This is global. It's throughout countries. Recently also, I collect old military firearms. It used to be the old surplus guns were sold off as scrap, and they always end up on the U.S. market, whether it's the old Russian Nagants or older firearms. Now there's also treaties and negotiations where the countries are supposed to destroy any armaments or arms other than sell them to get money back from them. So that's why my hobby is kind of drying up. You don't see any of the old World War II bolt-action rifles coming in, even because according to this treaty, all firearms have to be destroyed. So you got a global thing. In any economy, we're a consumer economy, and people have been conditioned to buy. It's like the toys. I remember one, the Furby. What a company will do is they'll produce a new toy, advertise the hell out of it for Christmas. They'll release a small quantity of this item, so there's a mad rush and everybody has to get it. Then there's the black market of, I bought it for $30. If you want it, I'll sell it for $60, and all this other weird crap. And then 2 weeks into January, when all these kids are all bent out of shape, they didn't get this toy, they'll release a couple million of them, and then they're all over the place. It's like they incite a panic to get you to want, or it's a weird thing, a desire. I think over the years they stopped doing it because there were people fighting in parking lots of stores, and it caused a lot of problems. But our consumer society conditions people to behave like this. And that's why whenever they advertise more gun control, okay, for the past 8 years since President Obama, the minute he got voted into office, everyone thought the assault rifle ban would come back. He was going to sign this back into law. There has been a steady increase in the purchases of firearms. Every year has been a record year in the number of guns sold. All right, who buys guns? Well, when you look at it, the vast majority of people, it's hunting or something, or a sport. So you have these people that basically buy it like a tool or a sporting item. They don't have an ill intention, and they're responsible. They go out hunt once a year, and a shotgun, a rifle, or even a pistol. Some people do hunt with handguns, or a recreational shooter. Somebody may have a gun. All right. Collectors, I think they did a study. People who collect firearms, whether they're military firearms or just old antique guns or expensive engraved guns, valuable guns. and you know, they're serious investments, and they accumulate a collection that's worth a lot of money, write books about it and that. That's only about 3% of gun owners, and let's go back a few years. So collectors are a small group. And now, when they push the gun control and the panic starts, much like the mechanism in place to get people to buy things, I'm seeing that there's a lot of people that are buying guns that years ago normally wouldn't have, okay? And this is where the people who scream for gun control, I mean, it's kind of obvious. The more you push gun control, the more guns that are bought by the general public, okay? Why is that? All right. I mean, it's like when you're saying, you know, everybody's pushing for Mothers Against Gun Violence and all these programs and stuff. Every time you bring that out, more firearms are sold that year. And the more you put it out on the news and the pressure, people are buying guns. People that normally wouldn't have, but didn't have an interest, are all buying it now. And that's part of this weird psyche of, I want to get in on it before it's outlawed type of thing. But there are people who are opportunists. There are people who see that, you know, maybe they're going to pass a law that's going to be illegal, and I'm going to buy up all these guns. So then when they're banned, I can sell them for 3 times what I paid for them. There are people that do that, okay? And then with all the sales, actually the price of firearms has dropped. Okay, at one time the AK-47, because the AK-47, you can get it for, let's say, $450 about 7 years ago. And before they banned that, there was all kinds of magazines and stuff left over from the communist countries that had stockpiles of it, ammunition. I think 1,000 rounds cost a little over $100. So they were inexpensive guns, so people bought them. And when Obama got voted in office, the price went up from about $450 to $600, and everybody and his brother wanted to buy one. If you had a bunch of them, you could sell them easily all day long for $600. Okay. Well, now the price of the ammo and accessories and that are not that common. They're kind of expensive, more expensive than the AR-15. And at that time, the AR-15 was still a $650, $700 gun. Okay, and now with these sales and that, the AK-47 has kind of fallen to the wayside. Now everybody's got an AR-15. Because now you can buy one for around a generic one for about $500. The magazines are cheap, the ammunition's available, and that's what people look at. Okay. I have several different types and in several different calibers. Some of the calibers is quite expensive. It's like 80 cents a shot compared to 23 cents. And a lot of people look at it that way. And I found you get a vast majority of people that just look at the price. When they realize the AR-15s used to cost $700, now you can get one for $5. And with the gun control, that's kind of what motivates them. Whether they need the rifle, don't need the rifle, or ever going to shoot it, they'll buy it. And that's what it's kind of scary that people do that, especially if they're not into guns and that. But now, what would cause that also? There's a couple other factors. Not only is the price lower, people look at the price, and that's why different types of weapons have popularity and are purchased more often. But what comes in is people's outlook. People are afraid. Okay, the economy has never really gotten better. Slightly better, but not better. You know, your future doesn't look good. Mine, you know, I just had to go to the bank today and another 401k where it had money in it, I had to move money. It's a lifetime of work, and I ain't got nothing saved up. I had more saved up in the early 90s when I was about 35 than I do now in my 50s. Okay, that's just because the economy and the options I have to invest are not good. Okay, job security. Okay, the economy is a factor that makes people nervous. Jobs and job security, that makes people nervous. And when you're on TV, another thing is the media, the way they hammer you with this, especially either the mass killings or they show rioting and that. People are nervous. People are scared. They don't feel secure. Okay? This is kind of a major factor also in why people are purchasing guns. For years, I've been to gun shows and you see women with children, everyone's buying a handgun for personal protection. This latest thing, President Obama signed in about trying to close the gun show loophole or making it an executive order. It's illegal to sell a firearm to someone privately without a background check, which really can't be enforced, but it got a lot of coverage in that, and of course I went to a gun show, which for the past year they've been slow, and the next gun show the week after that, it's packed, it's full of people, and there's really no vendors there because they haven't been selling anything. So you go there and there are some people that go all the time no matter what, even though it's a loss to go to the gun show. And one guy had tables full of AR-15s. It's not what people were buying. People were buying handguns. Anyone who had a bunch of handguns, I went in there and seen that their tables had a lot of items missing. Again, so it's not an assault rifle that's selling. It's personal protection. The handgun's more or less carried for personal protection, so this is your psychology in it. Some people will buy assault rifles with the idea that I need this so when society collapses, you know, I have a military style weapon to protect myself and my family. But this last trend is it's more of a fear. People feel that the government and everything is falling apart. And this is what I believe drives a lot of these purchases. The only downside to it is that you're putting guns in the hands of people who aren't familiar with them. Okay? And everybody hates the NRA, but the NRA is probably one of the only organizations that sponsors programs into teaching gun safety and everything else, you know, and will help people in this. So you see you got all this conflicting stuff and everybody all upset on one side and then people doing things on the other. I think the problem is, in this country we have to focus on getting the economy and things, number one, right, to running properly or back on track. Then we have to look at how people deal with things. One thing that I am is being accountable for your actions. Okay? In other words, you know, if you do something wrong, be accountable for your actions. Okay? Responsibility, self-discipline. These are things that, you know, when you, like I said, whether you're using a firearm or whether you're driving a car down the highway, you know, if you're lacking in this or totally disregard this or don't care, this is where a lot of the problems start. Either in violence, accidents, whatever. So this country, I think, should focus on other problems in other areas first before they start with the gun control. You know, and in closing, my view is it's also like a hidden political thing to consolidate power, because if they do confiscate all guns, then, you know, the people who have something to lose, like a home, a job, they're going to tell you, well, you're going to pay more taxes, you're going to do this, do that. And, well, there isn't really much you can do. You have something to lose. You know, where on the other hand, people who don't have anything to lose, it doesn't matter what law or what they pass, they're going to do whatever they feel like doing. So you see, the gun control thing is one small part of a much larger problem that our country and society faces. And unless we start addressing these other problems, okay, and turning things around, you'll see the gun violence and violence in general start to drop back. But the way we're going now, just dividing people, everyone arguing, name calling, you know, pointing fingers and like this childish stuff. Well, you know, if you're not for total gun control and confiscation, then you're one of them other people. And see that, and that's another thing people are doing. This childish insanity, okay? Nobody's working together as a nation or a community. It's like everyone's this self-centered little thing. I want my way, and I don't care what your opinion is, and my objective is correct, yours isn't. So that's kind of my opinion on all of it. I don't know if it makes sense in that, but like I said, it's a complex thing and it's difficult to explain. Okay? I don't want to say anybody's right or wrong. I understand why people are nervous in both ways. Nervous to where they purchase guns, nervous to where they want more control, because there are a lot of scary things going on. And everybody is on edge, more or less, to say. So that's my take on it.